Good evening, and welcome to the Business of Politics. I'm Vernon Araujo, your host, and we are broadcasting tonight from TSG Studios on St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, for a look back at 2021, a year of big news that began with the swearing in of a new and historical presidential team in Washington. We also saw the reawakening of our local economy, all the while adjusting to the new normal of life in the shadow of a global pandemic. Tonight, we will revisit more VI top stories of the year with an exciting lineup of guests who will help us reflect on news that was important to the community, from politics to business, health, and education. We will also remember Virgin Islanders who we lost in 2021, but made a lasting impact on our territory. This evening's show is packed with great conversation. So let's get started. Despite a generous incentive program, including $1 million in cash and prizes, weekly forums direct to our living rooms from the Department of Health, and a robust dose of good old-fashioned medical science, the Virgin Islands has one of the lowest COVID-19 vaccination rates in the country at 56%, while Puerto Rico, just across the way, has the highest at 74%. What gives? Let's talk to someone who's making it their mission to bring us to the community immunity goal line.
The biggest challenge for my team was encouraging individuals to get vaccinated because the vaccination was something new. They've never heard of the virus before, so it was something new, not just to my team, but also to the community. So just encouraging them, letting them know that, it is not something new. It's something that they have worked on for several years now, and just giving them that piece of information. I think that the government of the Virgin Islands gave us the best access for individuals. And let me explain what I mean by that. We first got our vaccine like the end of January, and the rollout was the best from every other healthcare provider in the states that I have talked to. The reason why I'm saying that is we had options. We could go to pharmacies to get the vaccine. We could go to healthcare providers, Department of Health. We could go to UVI, had access to get the vaccine. You could drop in, didn't need an appointment. So with my friends in the industry, they didn't get their vaccines till like March and April, where March and April for us, we had already rolled out stage 2, and we were on the process of doing stage 3. So I think that the government did an awesome job with giving us access to the vaccine. So for the news media and non-governmental partners like myself, I think is information and knowledge, explaining exactly what the vaccine is, how the vaccine works, and debunking the myths that are associated with the vaccine. So we have to realize that the mask wearing is probably something we're gonna have to be doing for a very long time. So just getting used to it, not getting comfortable with taking off your mask when you're in crowds. I travel, I still travel, and I'm comfortable traveling because as soon as I get wherever, there's hand sanitizer, wash hands, mask. So we just have to normalize that. Now it's so funny, when I see people not wearing a mask, they look weird to me. So I'm like, why this person didn't get a mask? Correct. So I just think that washing hands and keep your mask on.
As the world struggles with the shocking effects of COVID-19, the Virgin Islands is no less immune to the anxieties and uncertainties that the pandemic brought to our daily lives. And while the government and VI Department of Health do their best to promote caution and safety, many were surprised to learn in September that Senate Majority Leader Marvin Blyden, a 4-term senator in the VI legislature, knowingly and willingly put the public at risk by attending a popular event after testing positive for the coronavirus. Joining us tonight is Ali Born-Vanek of CBS USVI News to share her thoughts on the media coverage and the public's response to that story. Welcome, Ali.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So tell us a little bit about the story, and when it broke, what was the response from the public?
As a journalist covering this story, I think one of the key words, what you just said, was the word surprise. There was a lot of surprise from the public response and feedback from coverage of these stories, because I feel, and this is just from feedback, that in this pandemic, in these times, our public officials have been the ones who have been pushing really hard. They've been some of the most vocal people when it comes to COVID safety protocols. So a lot of surprise from the public covering this story. And as far as media coverage goes, when things happened, when things developed in this coverage, that was when we would do stories. So when Senator Blyden issued his response, we would report that. When the Department of Justice got involved, we reported that. So when things would unfold and develop, that's where more coverage would come up. And then at the same time, you were again seeing that surprise and a lot of attention from the public on this. So it made this a pretty big story.
So one of the things I heard was a kind of do as I say, not as I do, was the attitude that people felt that the senator had. Is that what you were reporting on?
Yeah, we heard that as well. And I think print media, broadcast media, we all heard a lot of that feedback as well. Again, super surprising, because you would hear from senators and then public officials and everybody really trying to, promote safety when it comes to social distancing and things of that nature. So, it made that conversation turn to that, is what you just said.
Well, thank you for your insights on this. We're going to continue our conversation in a second, and we'll be right back after a short break.
But what you saying, Jimmy? Means you're in a hot minute, We're going to say that it's been a hot minute for a reason. You want to know something? My mother told me that I can't come out of my house because of COVID-19. I know we ain't safe out there for a little bit, but still, I just have some fun though. Well, my side can't leave the house unless I'm vaccinated. But you won't scared of the vaccine? Nah, sis. The vaccine's safe.
VIP people, you must stay at work. COVID-19 is not a joke. It's much more than good hygiene. Give your children the vaccine. Education is the golden rule. Children need in-person school. They miss music, dancing and sports. Vaccination is better than worse. I want the COVID vaccine. Give me the COVID vaccine. It's safe, mommy. The vaccine safe, safe, safe. I want to see my friends and family. Playing with them makes me happy. It's safe, mommy. The vaccine safe, safe, safe. Children can become infected, get sick, and spread COVID-19 to others. Widespread vaccination is a critical tool to help stop the pandemic. People who are fully vaccinated can resume activities that they did prior to the pandemic. The MCH division encourages you to get your children ages 12 years and older vaccinated. I want the COVID vaccine. Give me the COVID vaccine. It's safe, mommy. The vaccine safe, safe, safe. Brought to you by the Virgin Islands Department of Health MCH program.
Has the COVID pandemic caused you to fall behind on your rent? What about your electric or water bills? Well, VIHFA's Emergency Rental Assistance Program is here to help you catch up. For program details and qualifications, go to VIHFA and click on the ERAP link. From there, it's just 3 steps. 1. Make sure you are eligible. Have you lost income due to COVID-19, owe at least 1 month of rent or utilities, and meet the federal household income guidelines for your island? 2. Gather all the required ID and documentation for all members of your household, plus statements from your landlord or utility company. 3. Submit your application online at vihfa.gov or call one of the intake centers on your island to make an appointment to apply in person. For more details and locations of the intake centers, please visit vihfa.gov.
1,000 jobs and more than $500 million in gross domestic product. According to media reports, that's the estimated fallout from the closing of the Lime Tree Bay refinery on St. Croix. The outfit has been plagued with problems since its opening in January of this year. Lingering stench to actual oil showers covering homes, cars, all across the west end of St. Croix resulted in an investigation by the Environmental Protection Agency that questioned the air quality, safety, and environmental damage brought on by the refinery. Rejoining me back in the studio is Ali Bourne-Verneck, who's going to tell us a little bit more about the conversation surrounding this issue.
Yeah, Vernon, this was a very tough story to cover as a journalist because there was just so much going on. And I will say that as a person and as a Virgin Islander, this was heartbreaking. We had a lot of environmental and health issues come about within this story. And so for people to suffer and have to deal with all of that, that's heartbreaking. You know, journalists outside of that, I mean, it's tough. There were multiple things going on with this coverage, and it was hard to, you know, at first just really find out exactly what was going on. And then you had information coming from Lime Tree, and then also the EPA getting involved. I went over to St. Croix a few times to interview people in the neighborhoods, and there were mixed reviews. To tell you the truth, I mean, you know, there's such a large history with the oil refinery in St. Croix. You know, there is, and it has provided so many jobs. It's been a huge part of their economy for years on years. When I went into the neighborhoods, I came across a lot of people who said, you know, we just want things to be safe. You know, we want the jobs to be able to continue, but we want this to be able to be done right and safe and have everybody be okay. You know, health first and foremost. That was what a lot of folks were saying. But on the flip, you also had some people that were just really upset and just did not want anything to, you know, happen anymore from the refinery. So there was mixed reviews. But, you know, I say again, this was a tough story to cover because there was so many different directions to go in with this, and you wanted to make sure that you did this right. And at the end of the day, you know, the refinery again has been such a big part of our Virgin Islands history.
So we got an insight from the people who live around the refinery, and there's mixed reviews. From the actual refinery, what were they saying as a result of the EPA and their reports?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a lot of compassion when I spoke with officials at Lime Tree Bay. You know, I was there during one of their first town hall meetings and press conferences. You know, they were trying to do, you know, from what they were saying, everything in their power to make things right, make things safe. At the end of the day, we saw what happened. You know, they had to file for bankruptcy, and we are where we are today. Now we're going to see a new group come in and see what happens from there. So, you know, in the beginning, there wasn't as much information. They also share that. Then they started to come out with more. But at the end of the day, you know, it's just such a sad situation, especially, again, I emphasize the health and the environmental impact, you know, which is really rough. So, you know, hopefully we'll see that get better. Hopefully people heal. But again, a tough story to cover in so many different ways.
Absolutely. Did you get a sense from the residents that were there that they had an idea of what they would like to see happen in the future?
Yeah, and you know, a lot of residents, again, they wanted Lime Tree to begin things up again, but they wanted it to be done right.
Okay.
Well, they wanted it to be done safe, you know, and we're really hoping that that could happen. Then you had some people who were just so upset, and they just, you know, wanted everything to stop for a multiple amount of reasons. You know, maybe it's health, maybe it's environmental. So it wasn't one-sided. Which, you know, I'm glad when I went over to St. Croix, I interviewed the residents and the people there, because it's good to hear different sides of it and to understand and then to communicate that back. Excellent.
So do you think right now that the community, Lime Tree, EPA are working in tandem to solve this problem well?
You know, I hope so.
Okay.
You know, I certainly hope that, you know, the resolutions from this can be impactful and be good. You know, I mean, there are people who reportedly suffered enormous health issues. You know, water was contaminated. You know, that's, you know, on the books. You know, that's in the reports. I was at one business on St. Croix, and they showed me their records of their water being contaminated. And Lime Tree Bay also shared how they were helping so many different people and families and homes trying to help clean up the water and and do what they could to help the situation. So you did have Lime Tree again on that other side. They were trying to do what they could to rectify things. So it was one of those really shocking and sad, unfortunate stories that we had, because you don't want to see anything like what happened, right?
Yeah.
But there were so many different things going on at once. So it wasn't one-sided. So you wanted to, as a reporter, I was trying to do my best to cover as many angles as possible and share both sides as I went forward.
So you mentioned that you attended the town hall meeting. What were some of your impressions from that?
There was a lot of feedback from the community that, again, was mixed. You had some people who were using the opportunity to share what they were going through, what their family was going through, maybe some of their health conditions. And then you had other people who, maybe they were more connected to Lime Tree Bay, and they were talking about how hard their family members were working with Lime Tree Bay to try to make the situation better. So I would describe it as just a lot. There was just a lot of feedback. And in that moment, you saw Lime Tree trying to do the best they can to have it and hear from the community, which, I thought was great. And then as a journalist, you like to see there be more conversation about this where people can feel heard. But I would describe it as just a lot of feedback.
Well, it sounds like this is a very emotional issue, and it won't be over anytime soon.
No.
So we're going to definitely continue this conversation. Some of the results from the 2020 census are in, and they are surprising. Or are they? It depends on who you ask. According to the official report, the overall population of the Virgin Islands declined by a staggering 18.7% from just over 100,000 to 87,000 over the past 10 years. Island life, particularly in the past 10 years, has not been easy. The combination of the 2017 hurricanes, a global pandemic, the increased cost of living, and the decreasing number of new businesses coming into the territory may have left people wondering, is the price we pay for living in paradise just too high? Returning to the studio with me is Ali Bourne-Vinek to tell us about this story.
Yeah, I think that as a journalist, sometimes you take a step back and you think, can the VI catch a break? With the 2017 storms and the pandemic, and yeah, we saw, I think with the census, we saw the results from that. With the storms, a lot of people left. With the pandemic, that changed up things as well. And the cost of living, as we well know in the Virgin Islands, and it's well documented, is high and is hard for families and people just in general. So for the census to come out with, I think it was 87,000 people now in the Virgin Islands, for that to have dramatically dropped, as a journalist, I wasn't really surprised.
Neither was I. And, we've grown up here. And so, in my opinion, after every major calamity, we see a bit of an exodus.
Yep.
Do you think this particular set of calamities is any different than some of the past years that we've had? Do you think that this trend is really alarming, or will we bounce back like we have before?
Yeah, it's hard to say, but I think that unless we see things shift and change, then we are going to see maybe more people start to leave, and maybe even that number, 87,000, go down even more. The challenge with all of this, as we talk about, and it has been talked about, is that the federal funding that the territory gets is very much dependent upon the population. There's a whole formula to it. I can't go into the formula,
right,
but there is a formula. So we're not yet facing the effects of this lower population, but we are going to in the future. Less people, less federal funding. That's just the reality of it.
That is very unfortunate. So were there any solutions that you found or that people offered when you were talking about this story?
Solutions as...
So it seems very doom and gloom. It seems like, this census is going to result in a significant loss of revenue. Meanwhile, we have this influx of tourism, and it seems that some businesses, some industries are doing well. So is the story really that the census will have a dramatic effect where we won't be able to sustain our living in paradise life? Or are there things that people are suggesting or that are already happening, other trends that are kind of balancing or making it less of an impact?
Well, I like to look at things as the glass is half full.
Right.
So I'm hoping that with the influx of visitors and tourism continuing to rise, I mean, we've seen that really increase recently. Hopefully, that will help stimulate the economy and get some excitement. More local businesses, and perhaps people will say, "Oh, yeah, like let's come back to the Virgin Islands and let's be a part of the excitement there with all of that." So perhaps with that, more people do start to come back because they started crunching the numbers, they see opportunity, and we can get that number back up. So as a reporter, I think that there's an opportunity. As a Virgin Islander, I would certainly hope that too.
Yeah. Now, very interesting perspective. Now, you see that our COVID numbers in the Virgin Islands per capita is relatively low in comparison to what's happening in some of the other parts of the world. Do you think that might have an effect on people's willingness to return regardless of the census report?
I do. I think so. And I think, and not only as a reporter, but just as somebody who was observing, we saw when the pandemic first started, a lot of people were coming to the Virgin Islands. They just wanted to get away from the mainland. We all spoke to different people and so on. People might look at the Virgin Islands and say, okay, well, low COVID numbers, maybe this is a place that we should settle down. And we could see that. I think there are some people that have come because of that result. Some people who may just want to be in the Virgin Islands for all the beautifulness and wonderfulness that you and I both know and love about home. So, we can see that happen for sure.
So we talked about the price of living in paradise. Do you feel that has had a more of an impact on people's willingness to leave than, say, the hurricanes or the pandemic itself?
I think it's been a combination of all of it, and again, unfortunately, it's like, can the VI get a break? But I do feel that as a reporter looking at everything, when I go and when I listen to Senate hearings and you hear different government agencies talking about their budgets, for example, they will share the challenges of the storms and challenges with the pandemic and how that relates to the finances of it all. And that is trickling out to everyone. That is an example of what everybody is facing. So, for some families or people, it might be a little bit this, a little bit of that. And the combined effect of that is why some people leave. But, again, I hope that, again, the glass is half full. There's a great opportunity for people to come back. Especially, young professionals and just really anybody, because home is home. It's in our heart. It's who we are. So hopefully in the future, our numbers are going to increase.
I'm hopeful as well. After several years of interim CEOs who led the hospitals on St. Thomas and St. Croix through historically challenging times of catastrophic hurricanes and a pandemic, their respective boards decided not to select either for the top spots, but instead Schneider Regional Medical Hospital on St. Thomas announced an interim CEO on December 7th, and 3 days later, Juan F. Louis Hospital named a new CEO who accepted the full-time position in the midst of ongoing financial difficulties, staff retention challenges, and plans for rebuilding of the hospital. Back in the studio with me is my friend, Ali Bourne-Verneck, to tell us about her coverage of this story.
Yeah, each hospital is different, right? Different, but face similar challenges. And I've been covering this, this year, and a lot of it has to do with the state that we're in these pandemic times. So when we talk about trying to retain staff and nurses and things like that, each hospital is feeling that. So from a coverage standpoint, those are some of the stories that I've been covering and the challenges that each one has been facing with that.
So what was the public's response to the new quote-unquote shakeup?
We're such a small community, so there's always going to be a lot of conversation about this. I think at the end of the day, people really want to see the hospitals thrive, right? And these issues, some of them have been long-standing, have these issues be resolved and get better. So I think that they're hoping that maybe now things can get better. Maybe it's a new chapter. But we kind of have to wait and see on what's going to unfold from this.
So I know the headline is really about the CEOs, but it seems that more people really want to know about the circumstances that were happening around the time that this happened, this new shakeup. What were some of the issues or challenges that the hospitals are having?
Each hospital is facing similar issues, right? Different hospitals, but similar. So when it comes to staff, nurses retention, trying to overtime, needing funds to pay nurses, for overtime, those are similar issues, and that makes things really difficult, just on a day-to-day basis in the midst of a pandemic. I mean, even if it wasn't a pandemic, that'd be hard. So imagine, in it. And this is an everyday thing, nurses working around the clock, trying to make sure that there is staff there for the patients.
So as you reported this story, did you get any feedback from any of the employees at either hospital as far as how they felt about the new shakeup?
I didn't get any response from the employees, but what I have been covering, and this has, been happening for a while is, some nurses, when it comes to the vaccine mandates, have reportedly have left. So, there have been mixed feelings, I would say, in the nurses community at the hospitals when it comes to COVID and everything like that. So it's made similar challenging issues at each hospital. So you hope moving forward that each hospital, what they talk about are these incentive plans that they're trying to incorporate to help with those situations, to alleviate, nurses or staff that feel maybe they're, just working a lot, burning the midnight oil, so to speak, but to help things and improve. So, that was, from a coverage standpoint, that's what I've really seen. A lot of the conversation has been.
So as far as the public response, because, this story came out and it was a bit sensational and, a bit alarming to some people. What ultimately is the feeling from the public as far as, the future of the hospitals here?
I think alarming has been a word that's fair. Just this week with the Wanafuli Hospital, we saw the ICU go through challenges, being shut down. And then, coming back and trying to, share how they're helping and fixing the situation, for the patients and everything. So I think the community moving forward from my take as a reporter is they're hoping that, with new leadership, these things can be, taken care of and things can hopefully improve from here.
Well, it's certainly a story that we'll be watching, and we're definitely going to comment more on this as it unfolds. Well, Ali, thank you again for your coverage of all these hot topics, and thank you for joining us here on the Business of Politics.
Vernon, thank you so much for your time. Known you a long time, so there we go.
And folks, we'll be right back after a short break.
Has the COVID pandemic caused you to fall behind on your rent? What about your electric or water bills? Well, VIHFA's Emergency Rental Assistance Program is here to help you catch up. For program details and qualifications, go to VIHFA and click on the ERAP link. From there, it's just 3 steps. 1. Make sure you are eligible. Have you lost income due to COVID-19, owe at least 1 month of rent or utilities, and meet the federal household income guidelines for your island? 2. Gather all the required ID and documentation for all members of your household, plus statements from your landlord or utility company. 3. Submit your application online at vihfa.gov or call one of the intake centers on your island to make an appointment to apply in person. For more details and locations of the intake centers, please visit vihfa.gov.
What I like most about the team that I work with at TSG is it's a group of incredibly bright, dedicated people.
They're very knowledgeable in their craft. Even though it's work, I'm learning every day.
I was born and raised right here on St. Thomas.
It was important for me to come back to my community and my home.
It's interesting to hear how they think through things and how they create.
No matter what stage we are in life, learning is part of the process.
We really partner with the community and our clients to identify opportunities for them,
which could actually help you to excel.
And just be able to affect some sort of change, a positive change, of course, in the Virgin Islands community.
The people at TSG are eclectic and they're fun to work with.
I'm a proud member of the TSG team.
A team that is inspired every day to provide solutions for our clients, our community, and our economy.
We are TSG, where we lift as we climb.
There's no question that the young Virgin Islanders suffered the biggest fallout from COVID-19. Almost overnight, Many went from thriving schedules filled with campus learning, socializing with friends, competing in sports, and enjoying hobbies and extracurriculars, to isolation from their normal lives. With lessons learned from 2020, the unfolding challenges of 2021, let's talk about this news story with the Department of Education's Assistant Commissioner, Victor Soames.
There's no doubt that COVID has changed everybody's life and every organization's operation, and it was the same for the Department of Education. The biggest challenges as a result of COVID and having to go virtually was academic learning and the academic deficiencies that we unfortunately had to deal with. So bringing them back in a safe and healthy environment was really important, from checking temperatures to conducting symptomatic testing using rapid antigen tests. Those are the type of things that ensure that our students were safe while they were in school. And I must say that we brought back in our pre-K through third. We brought back in our CTE students who are in specific pathways, and we brought back in our students with disabilities who needed to be in self-contained classrooms. So it went well in that regard, that we were able to keep them safe for the most part, and that we were able to really dig deep to make sure that they got as normal of experience, as normal a learning experience as possible by being back in school. Parents were involved, and their feedback was very welcomed. That feedback came in many different forms. It came in the form of parents participating in our Community Connect, which is every Wednesday at 3:30 via Facebook. It came in the form of surveys. It came in the form of just picking up the phone and calling us, responding on our Facebook page. And so we welcome and we appreciate parents' feedback because we listen. And for example, when we look at sports and athletics in the department, we had a fantastic meeting in October with parents of student athletes and coaches, and a lot of what they had to share and their concerns about student vaccination in order to play competitive sports were listened to. So as a result of that, we've partnered with the Department of Health, and we will do vaccination education and outreach to address the concerns that parents brought up at our sports and athletics meeting in October. And having provided that opportunity, it is our hope that by listening to parents, they will then become convinced that their students should become vaccinated, not only to play sports, but to be safe. And that's just one example. Vaccination is tied to testing, so you can't really separate both. So because we have low vaccination rates, we've had to step up our testing. And as I indicated before, testing is done in schools for our students currently there. Our school nurses have been trained to recognize signs and symptoms of COVID, which are mostly cold-like symptoms, and they can test right there on the spot, provided they have parental consent. And what's also important is that we do surveillance testing, and surveillance testing is done twice a month, and it's done with 10 to 15% of the in-school population, so that we can monitor, we can track, and we can generally see trends that may be occurring, and then move to prevent those trends from spreading. So that's one of the ways that we have addressed low vaccination rates in school, through increasing testing and monitoring. That's been really important for us. Mm-hmm.
Crime and punishment have been hot-button issues for 2021. From holding accountable participants in the January 6th insurrection of the U.S. Capitol, COVID fraud, national political unruliness, to the continued response of the Me Too movement. Here in the Virgin Islands, VIPD and local courts have noticed a dramatic increase in reporting and prosecution of domestic violence cases that, for too many years, have gone unreported and unpunished. We sat with Anya Stewart from the Family Resource Center, and here are her thoughts on why women and men are feeling more confident in stepping up, telling their stories, and bringing their abusers to justice.
I would say that the judicial system is helping in some way, and people are coming out because they are just fed up of staying indoors and going through abuse, and it's worse. It's getting worse. But there's always a solution to problem. We just have to really work collaboratively with each other, with other community facility that they don't have to do exactly what we do at Family Resource Center, but each one teach one. We can learn from each other to make our community a safer place. So I would say I work in both judicial, and because of the uptake, people are not just staying indoors anymore because they want to be out there. They have been inside for too long. So whatever it takes for them to get some help, they are coming out. The lessons that I've learned in 2021 to carry in 2022 would be a good listener, be thankful, be grateful for what you have and for the little that you have, because some people don't have, they are struggling. So that's why I'm saying be grateful for what you have and share what you have with others. That will make a big difference, because you can't go home, you have all this food to eat and your neighbor don't have any. You should say, okay, I'm gonna split that in two and share with my neighbor because I know they are struggling. That's one of my lessons that will make a difference. And working with other organizations, sometimes we are so judgmental when we don't know what is really happening. So I think we should always try to find out what's happening before we pass judgment on others. I think if we do that, this little Virgin Island will become great again if we just do the little things that we're supposed to do. Because there's a lot of people who like handouts. Some will say, no, I want to work hard for what I have. But I always believe in working hard for what you want to accomplish in life. So if we continue spreading that word, be a hard worker, be dedicated, be determined, and people are listening. One of these days, especially, we have to start spreading more awareness, talking about these things, so others could hear how we get from point A to point Z. But for the past couple of years, I must say a big thank you, because we have our president, who is Raul Carrillo, and he knows everybody. So he knows the contact, and he will call, and we haven't had a payless payday, so I am thankful for that. So with the new government office, I think they are doing a good job when it comes to nonprofit, because I can't answer for all the other organizations, but I know for Family Resource Center, we are thankful to at least we are able to pay staff for the past, if I have to go back, I would have to check the books, but I know for the past couple of years, we have been able to meet the requirements for salary for our staff, and we are 17 staff. I think we have 17 staff, yes. So we are thankful for that. And I pray that it continues, because FRC needs to remain afloat to continue our providing well-needed services in our community. So I'm thankful for that.
¿Ha la pandemia de COVID causado que tu renta, electricidad y cuenta de agua se atrase? Pues el programa de asistencia de pago de rentas de la Autoridad para el Financiamiento de Viviendas está aquí para ayudarte. Para los detalles y cualificaciones, vaya a vihfa.gov y escoja el enlace que lee Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Luego siga estos 3 pasos. Primero, asegurarse que cualifica. Sea por pérdida de ingresos durante COVID, tienes un mes de renta o utilidades atrasado, y llena las guías federales de ingreso por hogar que aplica a tu isla. Segundo, reúna los documentos requeridos de identificación de todos los miembros del hogar, estados de cuentas de su propietario y empresas de utilidad pública. Y tercero, envíe su aplicación a vihfa.gov o llame a uno de los centros de llamadas en su isla para hacer una cita para aplicar en persona. Para más detalles y localizaciones de los centros de admisión, visite a vihfa.gov.
What I like most about the team that I work with at TSG is it's a group of incredibly bright, dedicated people.
They're very knowledgeable in their craft. Even though it's work, I'm learning every day.
I was born and raised right here on St. Thomas.
It was important for me to come back to my community and my home.
It's interesting to hear how they think through things and how they create.
No matter what stage we are in life, learning is part of the process.
We really partner with the community and our clients to identify opportunities for them,
which could actually help you to excel.
And just be able to affect some sort of change, a positive change, of course, in the Virgin Islands community.
The people at TSG are eclectic and they're fun to work with.
I'm a proud member of the TSG team.
A team that is inspired every day to provide solutions for our clients, our community, and our economy.
We are TSG, where we lift as we climb.
A hotly contested 8% payroll cut levied in 2011 to government workers by then Governor John P. DeYoung has been a political football for several years. However, on November 10th, restoration payments of over $37 million began arriving by direct deposit and mail by the order of current Governor Albert Bryan Jr. and the 34th Legislature to the relief of past, current, and some retired government employees. Today I have with me Mr. Sidney Bell, who's going to shed some light on this issue.
Thank you, Vernon.
So tell me a little bit about your background and your connection to this story.
Well, I was the second vice president for AFT from 2001 to 2010. And I was like in the middle of some of these situations. Even before it started with Mr. DeYoung, we had a couple of issues with the past administration talking about taking money and not taking money. So I've been around for a little bit.
Well, let me ask you, do you think this restoration would have happened if there weren't the AFT lawsuits?
No.
So what would it have taken to make this happen? Or how long did it take for you to acquire the 8% restoration?
Well, basically, AFT as an organization has been leaning towards the Democratic Party for almost all the elections, because we have open polling our members to pick the team that they would like to support. And we have been supporting the Democrats for the longest while. And they have been winning, excuse me, but not coming through. So we must give thanks to the Bryan administration for what they did this time, even though I don't think they gave us everything as yet.
Okay, so that was my second question.
Okay.
Is the 8% enough? Or do you feel that there are members who would like a little bit more, considering the current cost of living and some of the issues that we've had to deal with since the hurricanes and whatnot?
Okay, well, we have to clear something up from the beginning. The money most of the members received was not the total of the 8% that was taken out.
Is that right? So what was...
For me personally, they took over $5,000 out, and I received $1,149. So there's some issues there that we have to get straightened out about, is it all the money that they paid, or they just paid portion of the 8% to the members?
So what have you heard from the administration?
I have not anything as yet, but I got some information today coming here.
Okay, what was
about
that?
Who I should talk to.
Not me, right?
I am not going to call names.
I got no money.
I'm not going to call names, but I'm going to be getting into that. But as you were saying, the government as a group over the last, I taught for 42 years.
Okay.
And as a group, the government is looking for the whole community. AFT is looking out for our members, you know? So stuff that would benefit AFT may not be totally the best situation for the whole community. So we will always be hauling and pulling, and the people in power have to try and work with the union, our union, who's one of the more powerful unions and the more together union, and try to work it out for the best for the whole community. And we understand that because we know that the people who are there are people that we have supported as a union, because our members voted and asked us to support this Democratic Party most of the time that we've had elections.
So despite the history, how are you feeling? Do you feel there's hope that there will be a resolution that everybody will be content with?
Oh no, there'll never be. Never be, because you are talking about the 8% right now that Governor DeYoung took. But there was money owed to us from before that, from Farrelly and Hodge, and even Charbel and all of those who said they would give us money and never did. We've had judgment against the government for about 30 years, but having a judgment against the government means nothing because you cannot make the government pay money that they say they don't have.
So you are hoping that by putting elected officials in or voting for people that will have your interests at heart, that things will change?
I am hoping so, but we are mindful of the fact that government are looking out for everybody and in their best light. Most government officials are putting themselves in position to be ready for the next election. So,
well, I really admire you for staying with the fight this long, and I hope that you'll soon have a resolution that at least the majority will be appreciative of and will be content with. Thank you so much for being with us today. And unfortunately, we have to wrap up a little bit early, but I really appreciate you being with us, and hopefully we'll continue this conversation at another time.
Thank you, I'll be glad to.
In 2021, the territory took a dramatic and accelerated turn on its COVID-19 path to a new normal, set by the government of the Virgin Islands. On June 1st, the restrictions of the previous executive order were lifted, and so began the open door phase. In a rapid response, we saw a flood of excited tourists from all around the world, arriving in every way imaginable. Today, I have with me Ms. Estrel, who's going to tell us a little bit about her business and how this influx has affected her car rental company. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So first of all, tell us a little bit about your company and what does Key and Go Car Rental do?
We rent vehicles, of course, rental car. When I'm not renting vehicles, I drive privately. We have a concept where it's kind of like Airbnb, so it's fully contactless. Of course, being that we started in the peak of the pandemic, we wanted everyone to be able to come to the Virgin Islands, rent the cars, without having to meet anyone, being in long lines and waiting, such like that.
So you said contactless.
Yes.
So that's a fairly new concept to the VI, right?
Correct.
Okay, so is that something that you have seen do well so far? How is business actually doing so far?
Right now we're booming.
Okay.
We're booked till mid-February. Yeah. A lot of people, we're on Google as well, so a lot of people are seeing the reviews and they like the concept. Like I said, you don't have to go to the airport there and you're waiting for Hertz to tell you, or we don't have any more cars and things like that. The cars are already there and you take pictures, you do what you do outside. We're doing text messages as well, so you text us and then we give you a code and enter the vehicle.
Okay, so excuse me because I'm a little older. And I'm not familiar with this concept. So you're saying when I get off the plane, I don't go to a counter?
No.
I don't check in with somebody?
No.
I don't get to see you?
We welcome you via text message. We track the flights. Once the plane arrives, we get an update, and then we send you a text saying welcome to St. Thomas. Once you retrieve your bags, then we'll convert from there. Yeah.
That is, unfortunately for me, kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Not seeing an actual person or having faith that the car will be there and I will get said text message and I will then have said car with the keys and everything, the gas in it.
Yeah.
Would you say that the protocols and the restrictions that we had in place had any impact on your ability to increase business with the influx of tourists?
No, because I actually started growing when the pandemic happened. But think about it, the Virgin Islands really depend on tourism. That's our economy. So I think that the government did put everything in place, to make sure that the businesses here try to get back to the normal. The new norm, of course. People were stuck inside. People wanted to get out of that. So traveling is part of the new norm. So we want to get back to that. So I think the government did what they were supposed to make sure that the economy is getting back to where it's supposed to be.
So now that we're here in 2021, where do you see the future given the new Omicron and the different variants? Do you see that the business will continue to increase?
Yes, yes. Okay. I think our businesses will increase. For us, we take a lot of customer opinions into consideration. Business is growing. You know, I need more cars right now as we speak. So yes, I think the economy here would definitely be doing well.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like if I need a job, you can hire me.
Most definitely, definitely, yes, yes.
That's great. Well, congratulations on your business, and thank you for coming and speaking with us today. We hope to have you again.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back after a short break.
But what you saying, Jimmy? Means you're in a hot minute, you know. We're going on today, it's been a hot minute for real. You wanna know something? My mother told me that I can't come out my house for the COVID-19. I know we ain't safe out here for a little bit, but still I just have some fun though. Well, my side can't leave the house unless I'm vaccinated. But you won't scared of the vaccine? Nah, sis. The vaccine's safe.
VI people, you must stay at work. COVID-19 is not a joke. It's much more than good hygiene. Give your children the vaccine. Education is the golden rule. Children need in-person school. They miss music, dancing and sports. Vaccination is better, not worse. I want a COVID vaccine. Give me the COVID vaccine. It's safe, mommy. The vaccine safe, safe, safe. I want to see my friends and family. Playing with them makes me happy. It's safe, mommy. The vaccine safe, safe, safe. Children can become infected, get sick, and spread COVID-19 to others. Widespread vaccination is a critical tool to help stop the pandemic. People who are fully vaccinated can resume activities that they did prior to the pandemic. The MCH division encourages you to get your children ages 12 years and older vaccinated. I want a COVID vaccine. Give me the COVID vaccine. It's safe, mommy. The vaccine safe, safe, safe. Brought to you by the Virgin Islands Department of Health MCH program.
Has the COVID pandemic caused you to fall behind on your rent? What about your electric or water bills? Well, VIHFA's Emergency Rental Assistance Program is here to help you catch up. For program details and qualifications, go to VIHFA and click on the ERAP link. From there, it's just 3 steps. 1. Make sure you are eligible. Have you lost income due to COVID-19, owe at least 1 month of rent or utilities, and meet the federal household income guidelines for your island? 2. Gather all the required ID and documentation for all members of your household, plus statements from your landlord or utility company. 3. Submit your application online at vihfa.gov or call one of the intake centers on your island to make an appointment to apply in person. For more details and locations of the intake centers, please visit vihfa.gov.
2021 began under a cloud of uncertainty. As we watched the swearing in of the country's first black, first female vice president, the Virgin Islands remained in a state of emergency with strict travel and social distancing guidelines. As the territory began to reopen and the tourism business began to soar, our children continued to struggle with the isolation of at-home learning. The local economy of the Big Island was tested yet again by the closing of its oil refinery. And in 2020, the census data left us considering the long-term effects of a declining population. A new vaccine brought hope that we could all get back to normal, but sparked heated debate that tested our trust in the government and healthcare and put a spotlight on what the responsibility is of our neighbors and officials to keep one another safe from the potentially deadly effects of COVID-19. Despite the unpredictability that we've all learned to live with, we know that change brings opportunity. A brilliant young poet, Amanda Gorman, left the country in awe during the national inauguration as she reminded us, there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. As we leave 2020 behind us, we look forward to an even brighter year ahead, a year of continued prosperity for the Virgin Islands, a year where we come together as a community to support our local businesses, our local government, our local leaders, and most importantly, each other. Because it's only by banding together that we will be a better Virgin Islands. Friends, thank you for joining us tonight. Be sure to tune in to our next episode when we continue our conversation on, well, the business of politics. Until then, stay safe, stay involved, and stay informed. Good night.